when I talk about awareness, it's like when you make that self-loving choice and you're aware of those things, it comes down to every single choice that you make in your life, right? What is morally gonna make you happy at the end of the day?
All right, it's Carla Rand on the Carla Rand Show, and today I have Darrel Grassl, and Darrell lives in Okotoks, Alberta, which is just south of Calgary, the big city of Calgary. And Darrell, we met in Edson here. We were at the gym. You were working out. So we're going to get to know you a little bit and understand that you have a bit of a unique perspective on the world. You have more of that level up mentality. And first of all, though, Darrell, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carla. Yeah, I'm from originally from Lloydminster, but moved to Okotoks right after we got married. Me and my wife got married. And yeah, I grew up pretty blue collar, same as everybody else. And but I always felt like I was a little bit different, Carla. Mm-hmm. I always felt like I was way more emotional than everyone that was around me, right? And when I got into my teen years, it kind of turned into like more of a spiritual belief that I didn't know where it was coming from. And I was like going through all the motions of being a regular teenage boy and being a husband and being all these things that I was supposed to be. But I always had this like itch that there was so much more to what I was experiencing. And then I had met an extraordinary person who's my Reiki master, Michelle. And she got me going on the whole spiritual thing. I told her a few experiences that I had. She got me going on that. And that just snowballed into self-love and like meeting people like you and getting an opportunity like this to share how easy it is to find that easiness and self-peace, that harmony with life, and just get rid of the stress. And you can do that all while staying really active, working out, still being a mom, still being a dad, working a job. It's just about spending that time by yourself, making it of value instead of wasting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When did you start to realize, or when did you feel, I guess, stressed out in your life where you were like, I'm just not content? When did that happen, do you think? Or was it just throughout?
Well, I got married pretty young. I got married when I was like 23. Had my first son when I was 24, second one when I was 25. By the time I was in my later 20s, like 28, 29, I was just like, felt like all I did was work, because I work on the road all the time, right? I'm a pipeliner, proud pipeliner.
Yeah.
And it's a good living, right? Like, it's hard to make it in today's world on one income when you have kids, you're young, you're just starting out. I had all these payments and I was just like matted down by all these things that I was supposed to be. And I wasn't paying attention to what I wanted to be.
So true.
Right? Now it was like depression.
So
like it was depressing when I discovered that. And at the time I was working in the mines actually up in Fort McMurray, which is depressing enough as it is. It's one of the more, it's a difficult workplace to be in. It's a difficult environment. You know, it just seems like there's a lot of unhappiness there, and you can just see that it's from these people just going through the motions of life and not expressing themselves or loving themselves or, you know, letting go.
Yeah. And you talk about loving yourself a lot. And I mean, I've heard that term, but what does loving yourself really mean? Because, you know, some people say, well, loving yourself means go get a manicure. Some people say go to the gym. Some people say getting outside. How do you kind of define that? Or how do you see loving yourself? What does that even mean?
It means what feels good. What would God do? Right? It's like the moral question of life. Is it wrong for me to stab this person? You morally know that thing is wrong to do. But yet when it comes to taking care of your body with your diet, you're willing to just throw that aside because everyone else is eating McD's. I want McD's instead of doing the right thing, right? And it's just those little things like that are self-love. Sitting down at night for 20 minutes and stretching. Like, how many people complain about back pain and leg pain and arm pain and they don't stretch a muscle ever?
Yeah, and this is what we got talking about at the gym, because we were talking, and it's like I see you there, so you're working in the area, and you're going to the gym every morning. So I'm seeing you there, and I'm thinking, okay. And then of course you left and whatever, but it's like I see this a lot. So you're obviously committed enough that even though you're away, you're working maybe shifts sometimes, you've got crazy hours, you make it to the gym. And a lot of times you're pretty tired, right? And you might only be there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes some mornings because you're rushed, but you still make it and you still do it, right? And you still choose to eat well. And also, people might not know, but you are an operator and you drive a lot. So you do a lot of sitting in a day, right? And so people like
Yeah.
you, typically, Darrell, they're the ones that have the back problems. They're the ones that are very overweight. They're the ones that all these issues. Now, you could argue, oh, well, it's just you got good genetics, whatever, whatever. But you and I both know that you make it a priority. You make your health a priority. You make your nutrition a priority. And so you get out. You said you often, you'll be sitting all day, then you'll get up and you'll stretch, you'll move around, you'll do something, because you know that if you don't, you will have pain and you will have issues, right?
Yeah, and that that right there is it's a tiny expression, but it's an expression of love for yourself, right? I'm going to make myself feel better in this moment that I don't feel good,
Mm, yeah.
right? You're doing something for yourself instead of just, oh, I'm just going to keep sitting here because I'm too lazy to get out and stretch, or I'm too lazy to walk over there. We make up a million excuses, and our phones are like the biggest excuse.
Yeah.
So many people get trapped in their phones when they, a conversation is loving yourself. Like there's so many ways that we don't think of it in that sense, but
Mm. Well, I think that's good that you said that. And even for me, like people say, oh, why do you do this podcast? This podcast, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I do it, but it's kind of a passion project. I get to talk to people. Like you said, a conversation can be self-love. So in a way, it's almost like I'm loving myself and loving my listeners, hopefully too, because they can learn something. But like I love having these conversations. I love learning from people. That's like one of my most favorite things. And I think people, their stories, their experience, their history is just so incredible. And there's so much that can be learned, right? So I think self-love, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And like you said, it's essentially just taking care of yourself, isn't it?
Mhm. It is, but like I think everyone does a good job of taking care of themselves aesthetically in our world today. I think the newer generation of kids and stuff are more nutrition savvy. My parents didn't know anything about nutrition, but it's becoming more knowledge now, right? So we take care of our bodies, but I'm like, yeah, I've gone to the gym for a lot of years, but when I had the moment of where I felt like I woke up, it was more to the mental and spiritual, like the intellectual side of life, right? To just stop was because it was how I got rid of all my pent up energy, was go to the gym for like an hour, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm talking about.
Oh
Those
yeah.
guys that just bend and they just lift hard for like an hour. They're just venting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I do that same thing just sitting on the couch at home meditating? Just take the next part of it to the next level, right? Because there's the three aspects of life, which is the mind, body, and spirit. And just to like step above that body mode or that mind mode and find that next level that, in my opinion, just I'm not like I don't put my beliefs and my habits on other people, but I can show to them how easy my life is when I live this way, right? And
Yeah.
that's just what I've been trying to do, right? Is just be me as best as I can be me. And you notice it, you see it around you, you see people come up to you and ask you, just like you came up to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like these are all new experiences in my life because I haven't always been this type of person. So it's like the proof is in the pudding that when you put the practice down to loving yourself, it really can help you step up to the next level in life.
Yeah, and I mean that's like a huge passion of mine, is just always getting to that next level, but also not hopefully in a stressful way, Darrell, because I've spent a lot of my life striving, I got to strive for this. I got to strive for that. I got to work so hard and I got to push and and it's just like, I'm just always like, my cortisol is like way up high all the time, right? Getting adrenaline rush is just push, 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 right? And I
Yeah.
think that that's not the answer either, kind of what you're saying, right? Like, yes, you can go to the gym and you can get out all your frustrations and lift heavy weights and throw things around, and scream and whatever you got to do to lift those weights. And you see people doing that all the time at the gym, and it's fine. I think it's great. You're better off to do that than to go like smash a window or kick somebody's head in. You know what I mean? Get it out in the gym. That's perfect. But I think, like you're saying, there's also that level of being able to just like think intellectually about life and realizing that there's more than what we just see, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think people take care of their aesthetics. Like, oh, I got, my eyelashes done, let's say, or I've never actually had my eyelashes done, but let's say I did, makeup, get your hair cut, wear a nice shirt, have a nice car, a nice house, whatever. Everything looks nice. But what is your mental state? And I think you and I both know depression, suicide, anxiety, like it's just skyrocketing. Why is it skyrocketing? I'm going to hazard guess that like it has to do with the fast pace of life. It has to do with, like just you're supposed to do everything and you're supposed to do it fast and whatever. I think that's probably a big part of it. But I think people are just overall maybe less reflective. They have less peace. They have less downtime. I don't know. What do you think, Darrell?
Well, I don't know. I've been through it, right? And it's like, I think it's an accumulation of what we've been taught right from birth, right? Is all the ways that we should be, what our parents expected of us, what our friends expect of us, everything. It's in the media so heavy now, this expectation that's put on us of the way that we should be, that we either become comfortable living in that, right? Like what you're saying, you want to break free of it, but you want to break free of it without it being stressful. Well, ultimately, it's up to you how stressful any situation is, right? Like, I don't know how to explain you can't explain it to people because some people just aren't on that path in life of being able to let go. Like, if you believe what I believe in, which is that we live many lives, you don't learn everything in this life, right? You might not be on that step. It's like, it's expanding your acceptance of what could be so beyond anything, that anything is possible, so that nothing bothers you.
Right. Okay. And I mean, the other thing too is like, Darrell, how many times do people say this? Okay. And I'm going to say it right now. Just like, I don't necessarily agree with everything that you're going to say, and that's okay. Right. Like, I'm not here to just push my opinion all the time. I want to hear from you. So this idea though, that you said, which is really interesting, that you live all these lives. Okay. Like whether I agree with that or not, that sure would put my mental state probably in a better place, because honestly, Darrell, everybody always says you only live once. You got to, crush your goals and live your life and be the best mom and the best wife and the best, parent, blah, 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 all these things. And you're like, oh my goodness, I got to do everything that I possibly am ever going to do right here, right now. And so there's this stress and this pressure. And I think like, if you could just say, okay, yes, life is short. So we need to like, live it well. But at the same time, life is pretty long and we don't really know exactly how things are going to be after. So like for me, believing in heaven, it's like, okay, if I want to become, because like I always say, like in my next life, I'm going to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and I'm going to, go sing and like all these things. It's like, well, maybe I'll do that in heaven. And for you, maybe you'll do that in your next life. Then there's just less pressure. Like, I'm wondering if that's a big part of it, Darrell. I don't know.
Oh, for sure it is. For sure it is. Like, everything that you are right now was like a lot of who you are was learned.
Yeah.
Right. Like, can you, like, I could admit that to myself that, there's so many attributes that I have that are learned from experiences from the people in my life, right? That meant the most. But it's if you're aware of that, then it's like, if you're aware of that, you're now mentally, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's your choice. But it's your choice at that point, whether you want to keep going with that or you want to break free of that, right? Like, that's like God's ultimate gift to us in this life was choice. But we think that we can only choose small things. When realistically, when you wake up in the morning, if you feel sad, you can also choose in that moment to become happy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It ultimately is a choice. And I don't want to like take anything away from people who go through depression and don't know how to deal with it or don't have help, or like those are serious conditions for some people. But if you're the type of person who's aware of the things that are making you depressed and you're not willing to do anything about them, it's ultimately on you. Right. And that's where like I'll step into the next thing, because you and I spoke about selfishness one time and how you said, like, no, I'm not supposed to be selfish. I'm supposed to be selfless and all these things. But what if we are supposed to be selfish? What would that feel like if I did that for a while? Right. If I just was completely selfish and all my time I just spent with me and did the best I could to become who I am, you don't even need to do it. You can just think about it and you can see all the people around you falling off the wagon, right? It is, and it is a daunting thought. And especially like you're a very energetic and out there type of person. So for someone like that who has so many close people to you and so much going on in your life, that would be a completely different scenario from what I went through. Because I'm a very shy guy, I only have a few really close friends. I never really make outside contacts in life. So I didn't have a lot of people fall off the wagon when I decided to wake up and start focusing on this aspect of my life. And it would be awesome if just everyone would wake up one day and do it. You know, it would become a little bit happier world, I believe. But it's hard to do it on your own. Don't get me wrong.
And the guttural instinct when you say, oh, we should be selfish, I'm like, no, Darrell, that's a terrible thing to say. How could you say that? But then the other part of me is like, okay, I've hit many walls in my life. I shouldn't say many walls. I've hit a few walls where I've crashed and burned, where things just like there's no way I could take another step forward, right? It just was not happening. And again, it's that striving, it's that pushing, it's that trying to be maybe who I think I should be. This person's putting pressure on me. This person's putting whatever. I'm putting pressure on myself ultimately because it's my choice who I listen to, right? And what I take from my experiences and stuff. That's my choice. I can decide to put some things aside, and I have, right? But at the same time, if people would really look after themselves, like often when I'm hitting that wall, I'll go off by myself. I'll go on a hike by myself, a really invigorating hike where, I don't know, maybe it's like plus 30 and I'm sweating like a dog. There's just something about being in nature and all of that. So it's like, I would think, okay, that's selfish. I'm leaving my kids, I'm leaving my family, and I'm going off by myself. But ultimately, I'm going to be serving them better in the end anyways, right? But I guess you would say, but don't do it so that you can serve everybody else. Do it because you need to figure out who you are and you need to make sure that you become who you need to be. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to interpret what you would say about that.
Yeah, but like those small things, like I know it doesn't seem like much. You go off for a hike. And I want to like point fingers or like
let it out.
Go outside here by seeing this, but a lot of people do those things. But when you do those things, are you going for that hike to get away from everything else? Or are you going on that hike to be with yourself? And we get caught in those like quiet moments where we're like getting away from everything. Because I did this a lot where I was getting away from things, but I wasn't using that time. I was just like blindfolded, you know, if I went for a run or I went for a hike, or I was just thinking about nothing. I actually wasn't with myself per se. Do you know what I mean? Like, was I doing that to get away from things, or am I doing this to actually focus on myself? Like, let the thoughts flow and get emotional with yourself. And
I guess that makes sense.
It's kind of like awkward to share because it's like, think of when you were a child, how your imagination was. I always ask people how visual they are. Like, can you visualize things in your mind? And we don't use that aspect of our ability for any good. We just let our imagination run wild, and yeah, every now and then we imagine things that we want, but really, like, using your imagination to spend time with yourself adds this like sentimental and emotional value to that time with yourself.
Mm.
Like, actually have a conversation with yourself,
Now you're
right?
sounding crazy, Darrell. Now you're sounding crazy. No, I'm kidding.
Well, see,
No, I
it's
know what
like,
you mean. Yeah.
I don't really share these aspects of what I do with a lot of people because I get a lot of looks. Like, all my family's ranchers
Mm.
and
Oh yeah.
cowboys and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like something easy to share, but those are like emotional moments when you can actually talk to yourself about what you really want and how you can deal with those things and let your emotions flow.
Mm.
And it just, I don't know, it makes the decisions a lot easier when you have to do things that you need to do in life, right?
I suppose for me, I would when I would be off by myself, I'm talking to God. So I'm like, okay, God, this is going on. This is going on. I'm praying. Please help me with this. I'm thinking about stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, where should I be? What should I do? Who am I really? And who did you create me to be? And what's my purpose here? And like, so I think I probably do the same thing, but maybe I'm not talking. I am talking to myself a little bit though. Absolutely, I am. Not just to God. So I suppose in your situation, you're saying just spend that time on your own. And you know how people talk about like loving yourself, liking yourself. I never used to go there, Darrell. Like I was just like, that's just kind of weird. And I'm not going to think about that. That's just selfish, whatever. And then I'm like, I actually kind of like myself. Like I kind of have fun hanging out with myself. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird, but like I love that I like to like dance around. I love that like that I can put myself out there. Like I have so much fun there. Like my life is just such a party so often because I'm in my like I'm thinking it that way, right? I'm choosing to make it so fun, right? It's not fun all the time, but like I can choose to have a really fun life, and I do.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
hanging out with myself more than I like hanging out with certain people that really bring me down. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather go
Yeah.
I want to go hiking by myself, not with certain people, because I know they're just going to be complaining and dragging me down. And you know what I mean? Anyways, yeah.
That's true. I always say, if you don't want to hang out with you, who else is going to want to hang out with you?
Yeah. Do you also think, okay, now I'm kind of going off here. This is how my brain was. But I'm also thinking if people would spend more time on their own and be comfortable with who they are to begin with, do you think that they wouldn't maybe be hitting these walls? They wouldn't, because so often we're pushing things down, we're suppressing feelings and emotions, right? And do you think if we would just kind of just let it sink in, deal with it, be comfortable with it, have conversations with people, that we would be better off?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's funny because if you think of something embarrassing you do, I was having a conversation with someone about this just the other day. There's 1,000 other people in your neighborhood who do that same thing, right? We just don't do it in front of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But we were taught from the time we were little kids to only do certain things in front of each other and show certain parts of our body. And it goes right back to the inherent knowledge that we were given and that was delivered to us constantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you got to be able to step past those things. But like when I talk about awareness, it's like when you make that self-loving choice and you're aware of those things, it comes down to every single choice that you make in your life, right? What is morally going to make you happy at the end of the day? So I think you and I had the conversation the one day about, I told you about a book called The Tao Mastery of Love.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we talked about a few things, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned a bunch of books to you, and that was one of them. And if there was ever a book that I could recommend for anyone who listens to this, if they get an opportunity to listen to this, it would be that book. Because when you read that book and it gives you a different outlook on the way that love was intended to be used, it makes things that happen in your life so much easier, right? Like you can take the most dirtiest of situations and understand how to love that situation and what type of love came from that situation. It was a lesson. A lesson is the universe loving you back. Like, just simple ways of looking at love like that. So the best way I can describe it, to put it into a small paragraph from the book, is that love is not an expectation or an obligation. It just simply is love. You love outwardly, constantly. And you only hurt yourself when you put an expectation on that love. Okay, I'm going to do something nice for this person. And if they don't do something back, or if I don't, I'll do this nice thing for you if you do this. We always have these expectations revolving around the love that we give to people, and especially the people that we love the most. We put so many obligations and expectations on those people. And when you can learn to just love those people for who and what they are, and be like, oh, if I made plans to go for coffee with you tomorrow and you just blew them off and you no-showed, how ultimately it's my choice whether I want to be upset about that. Yeah, I was doing a loving thing by going to buy somebody coffee and they no-showed. But realistically, I just could have that time with myself. Why would I let that bother me? Do you know what I'm saying?
So
and how can people? I understand. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a real chill guy who can get over things easy. I don't know.
Well, you're not, because you've had to
struggle.
You've had to become that way. You weren't like that before. Yeah. Isn't that right?
I see people struggle with that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, how could you let your girlfriend talk to those guys over there? Right? Am I supposed to stop her from being a human being? Just a simple scenario like that, right? It's just we put stipulations on each other, and then we live underneath them, and we're just like hiding underneath all of these things that we're supposed to do so we don't get into trouble.
And really, you see that in the world. I mean, even look at the way, like, the response to COVID. I mean, so many people, yes, of course, there was a lot of, whatever, but so many people are just like, yeah, this is what we do. Right. And I think that's okay. Like, if you agree with that, then go do it. But we have to evaluate what we're doing. Like, is this really who we are? Is this really what we want? Right. And I think that, like, yeah. And I mean, I think, like, I've had to do that a lot in my life. I've had to evaluate, okay, what does a mom look like? What does a wife look like? What does a coach look like? Who, like, do I go under all those, I guess, like, do I put myself in those boxes of what that should look like? Or do I just figure out, well, who am I and how do I want to do this? What's the best way for me to do this? How do I serve these people in the best way? Not how did this person and that person and whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But if you love that, like, if you love doing those things, my sister-in-law is an extreme busybody. She's coaching and teaching and classes after, like, she's a teacher, and she's always taking on more and more. But I believe that she's just a person who genuinely loves doing that. She doesn't stress out about things too much. She's just a super active, busy person, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, just because you're super active and do all these outward acting things, maybe that just really is who you are. Mm-hmm. If you really love doing them, right?
I do. I love it.
That's I could never imagine you being still.
Yeah,
you always get me pumped up in the gym in the morning. Yeah,
like, hey everybody! I actually come in there and I'll see, like, a car in the parking lot, and I know who it is, right? So, like, hey, how's it going? And, like, we chat, crank the tunes, whatever. I like that's who I am, and so it's nice to just be able to be that way, Darrell. Because so often I've been like, oh, I shouldn't be. I'm too much, or I'm too this, or it's like that's who I am. Like, I obviously I'm not going to offend somebody. I'm not going to start screaming and yelling at a funeral. Like, that's not the place, not the time. But, like, you got to figure it out. One other thing I wanted to mention, and then we maybe should wrap up, but I mean, we could keep going on, but you talked one time about, if you're looking for the red light, you'll always see the red light. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Red lights and green lights.
Yeah. Can you just talk about that? Cause I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. It's like, the aspect of manifesting what's in front of you is that ultimately your thoughts and your words become vibrations that paint the picture that's in front of you every day. And if you pay attention, when you hang around with people who are angry drivers, it's the best example. And they're always getting cut off, and they're always hitting every red light, and they're always swearing at every red light, and they're always yelling at they're angry while they're driving. The universe just keeps giving them more of what they want. Like they scream at the red light. Well, don't even acknowledge the red light. But when you get a green light, be thankful for the green light, right? The two different energies, the good energies and the negative energies. And it's still energy at the end of the day. So if you're always giving off more negative energy towards negative aspects of your life, that's what you end up getting back. So flip the lid, be thankful for the things that are good. Be thankful for that parking spot that's right up at the front door, for the green lights, for all those little things. And then they just try it. And you see it.
Oh, it's amazing. Yes.
You see it happen.
It is so easy to get sucked into that negativity, right? And to be like, oh, I don't have enough. Like one big thing is I don't have enough money. This scarcity. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. It's like, okay, but what is there enough of? What is there time of? And so a lot of these business coaches and people, these entrepreneurs or whatever, these really successful business people, they actually say these things every morning. So they'll look at themselves in the mirror and they'll be like, I don't know, like let's say, for example, everything is easy for me. I have everything I need. I have enough money. I have enough, like whatever is specific to them. Maybe it's like a girl looking in the mirror, like I am beautiful. I am loved, like whatever it is, right? Or a man, maybe I'm strong, whatever it is. But I think it's like these affirmations that you say. And it's in a way, it's being grateful. And it's like you said, it's like saying, this is what I'm going to see today. This is what I choose to see. And when you choose to see the good, you see the good. It's funny how that works. And when you choose to see the bad, you see a heck of a lot of bad, because there's a lot of bad in this world. Right?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So
I like that.
Any closing thoughts, Darrell? Anything that you maybe haven't shared yet that you'd kind of like to get out to the world? Or do you feel like we covered most of what you kind of wanted to say?
I would just say that not everything that I talked about today is for everybody, right? It's all just about how you feel about it. And if it feels good, give it a chance. Think about it. That it's hard to say it without being preachy, because I really try not to do that. But I always end up doing it. So just give it some thought is all I would say. Just actually think about it. Mm-hmm. Sit with it for a minute.
And maybe there's something in your life that you haven't even explored or you haven't acknowledged, right? And I think that lack of being self-aware can be a real big problem, because people just react. They have no idea why they're reacting. Why did that trigger you? Why did you say that? Why are you annoyed about this so much? They have no idea. They're just like, I'm just mad. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Darrell.
Thank you, love.
Yeah, no, I appreciated what you shared. And every time I talk to you, I'm like, yes, there's so many good reminders for me. So thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Hey, it's Carla. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast today. I have 3 things I want to tell you about myself. But first, please go check out my company, Power Fitness Online. PowerFitnessOnline.com or Power Fitness Online, Facebook or Instagram. What I do there is I help you. I train you so you can get fit, strong, healthy, have energy, feel good, and be at your best, because in this life, we want to be at our best. I do, you do, we all do. So here's 3 facts about myself. Number 1, I've been a fitness trainer for 20 years. Yes, 20 years. Number 2, I'm 5'4 3/4, not 5'4 1/2, none of that. 5'4 3/4. Number 3, I have 6 kids. Yes, they're all my own. None of them were twins. They're all my own. I had them one at a time, and I love my kids so much. So remember, go to powerfitnessonline.com if you want to get fit and stay fit.